I am super excited for this session now. I want to invite to come into the screen here with me, Luke Spiller.
Hello.
All right. Luke, how are you today?
I'm all right. Can you hear me?
We can, absolutely. Looking good as ever. So Luke, we first met 2 years ago when you and the guys were gracious enough to come in and play for us in our office right outside CenturyLink Field. I think there was a Taylor Swift show going on that day. You guys came in and played for a company meeting, and gosh, we just had a blast. And I think the Struts they have such a fond place in our hearts. So we really appreciate you having here today. Little could we have expected back then 2 years ago that we'd be here in 2020 talking about this subject. But how are you doing through this, and how are the guys doing?
Well, truth be told, being completely aware that this is obviously a very difficult time for a lot of people, including our fans and a lot of our immediate friends and family, etc. How am I doing though? I'm doing pretty good. It's been a very long 5 years of just constant touring, constant sort of the pattern of touring nonstop, coming off the road, writing music, and then just repeat. And it's been like that for 5 years. Really have not let the grass grow under our feet whatsoever, which has been amazing and has been obviously it's given us the chance to sort of build a real foundation and a fan base, which, for what we do is extremely important. But from my personal point of view, it's also been an amazing time to reflect and actually just kind of, I know this sounds funny, but existing in one place is just something that I haven't had the luxury of doing for 5 or 6 years. So I'm kind of enjoying, quote, the normal life and existence. I do miss the road, but on the whole, man, I'm doing great. I'm not saying I'm hoping this goes on for any longer than it needs to, but I'm kind of taking this as like a creative holiday, so to speak. So doing all right.
No, that's good. And that's good to hear. And that was kind of my hope, that the rest would do you well, kind of mentally and spiritually as well as physically. I'm sure just the layoff of your voice has probably been pretty good too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the Struts, for those of you that don't know them, I would classify them as probably one of the hardest working bands out there. I mean, at any given time, as Luke just said, years of endless touring, and in the middle of that touring, they'll break off and play a festival. They'll break off and open for big bands like Guns N' Roses, the Stones, Foo Fighters. Often doing this concurrently. When and this torrid pace. When you first heard, that, and how did it come down? Like when you first heard about, okay, this coronavirus is going to impact us, and oh my gosh, it's putting some shows at risk. And I mean, how did that, when that first came down, how did that feel? How did you guys take it? And then how did you kind of settle in or transition into this mode you guys are in now?
Well, it happened just so quickly, because in the industry that I'm in, tours and shows for the most part get booked. We're talking like months and months and months in advance. I could wake up the first few days of January 2020, and for the most part, on an average year, my calendar is booked out probably at least into the summer. So of course it was once we started hearing the possibilities of not being able to go to certain places, we were kind of whatever, I'm sure everyone else was, and all the other sort of bands and artists that I've spoken to. But surely, and slowly but surely, it became more and more apparent that, there were times in the early stages where we could have gone to certain places and played, but it came down to sort of like a moral responsibility, as well as like a safety issue, where it was kind of like, you've got to think about it like this, like there's a small outbreak going on here which could turn into something larger. Do we really want to be that group that encourages like thousands of people to be like rubbing shoulders with one another, when, you know, this spreading of this virus can be avoided like fairly easily by just sort of like staying at home and being safe and using common sense? So it just kind of like snowballed after that, really. And then, yeah, it was just one of those disappointing things. Like, I know for myself and the rest of the guys, we had some, you know, fantastic slots played in some festivals, which we, you know, so how festivals work, like you don't particularly like sort of play them twice in a row, like one year after the next. You sort of go and play, and you'll play at a certain time, and then you'll go away, they'll get a different lineup for the next year, and then you come back and you're up on the board a bit, you know, you've got a better slot. So these were kind of like opportunities and performances that we were like really looking forward to. So it has been like a big disappointment, but as far as I'm aware, you know, this industry is really trying to stay true to sort of like keeping their word, including the festivals. You know, they're not just writing everything off. It's like, hey, we're going to move everything until sort of like 2021 if everything kind of settles down. But yeah, it was, you know, there's a lot of information constantly coming in my line of work. And I remember this virus just kept sort of like creeping up and up and up and up. And then it got to a point where it was like, guys, we're not going to be able to do this. And then it was just like a domino effect. It was like, this isn't happening. And then something that was a month later wasn't happening, up until basically where we're at now is, you know, as much as we don't want to admit it, we're probably not going to be able to play any shows for the remainder of the year, which, you know, obviously is a bit of a bummer. But it's just what has to be done. And I'm not the only musician that's having to go through this as well, which is kind of like, I guess, you know, the silver lining in this whole situation.
Oh, that sounds, I know as a fan that disappoints me, but I totally get it. You know, you guys have done, you know, great work over this break. I mean, Sunday service has been just such a fun way as a fan to stay involved with the band. You know, obviously you have that experience, and you're trying to be as scrappy as you can during this time. And if you look out and you've still got another, you know, 6, 8, 9 months till you can tour again, is there anything you're learning now? Any things you guys have tried, or, you know, are the things you may be doing over the next, you know, half a year that, you know, either, you know, will kind of keep us entertained in the near term, but also maybe some things that maybe, you know, could change in the music business ongoing?
I think, firstly, I think it's going to change the business, probably forever. I think the one sort of like fantastic thing that's kind of really come out of this is, for us anyway, especially the Struts, is looking at sort of like our social media platforms and probably using them to an extent that we really haven't done so like up to this point, because it's been this balance of touring, releasing new music, and then you're using like your social media to promote that. But now we've kind of like, you know, almost dedicated all of our focus into like our Instagram page and our website and stuff like that to keep people engaged. So like you said, the Sunday service thing was like a quick kind of like thrown together idea where we had all of these all of these hours of footage from like concerts that we've been doing like the previous year, that, to be honest, we didn't really know what we were going to do with them. We were just kind of banking them, whether it was going to be for a documentary or things like this. And it just became very apparent very quickly, like, okay, we're not going to be able to be doing any shows. We've got to stay engaged with these fans. Like, we're not, I mean, I know that there are bands at this moment in time who have done absolutely zero to sort of like make the effort and stay engaged with the fans. But the Sunday service has been sort of like a really great opportunity to, you know, record some fun covers, keep it light. The other guys have done a fantastic job making these kind of like almost like SNL-esque kind of like sketches. So I also feel that the audience and our fans are kind of like getting to know us in a way that they weren't before. You know, it's like it's been a real kind of like great experience, and it's something that I think and I hope that we're going to carry when the time is right and we start to, you know, go out there and play live again, you know.
Well, I say as a fan, I hope we do, or I hope you do. It's been a lot of fun. I feel like, you know, we've all gotten to know you guys a lot better through this, and we always knew you were all kind of goofy, but to see you kind of just goofing together and having that come together on screen has been really fun. And, you know, thank you for joining today, and thank Adam too for his help behind the scenes. You know, one of the things that Adam recommended as we were, you know, thinking about how today was going to come down is he said, well, maybe the guys could put together a 3-song set for you to play, you know, throughout the day. And of course, we jumped all over that opportunity. So thank you guys for doing that. We're going to open the first of your 3 songs are going to come up right after our interview here. And it's your usual opening song, or at least it has been on your last tour. Can you just tell us a little bit about how that's going with the, you know, with doing these kinds of things, and how does that work? You know, you each do it separately and then it mixes together.
Yeah, it's like, it's a good old fashioned clam around, disorganized like mess, you know, up until about 48 hours where everything gets thrown into a Dropbox or a WeTransfer, and then some poor sod's got to edit it all up. But, you know, where credit's due, the team surrounding me, like Adam, as you mentioned, like part of our management team, have done a fantastic job of just being this shepherd of, you know, the wild sheep that the Struts are, to basically just sort of like keep on top of us, because we're all in separate parts of the world at the moment. So it's been an interesting experience, but I do hope everyone enjoys like the couple of tracks that we did.
Thank you, Luke. We appreciate that. And we have to keep us overall on track. I was the first one to, we were the first ones to break our agenda today. We broke it a little bit, but not too bad. Again, thank you so much. And we're going to try to push the boundaries on technology here a little bit, and play the Struts, Prima Donna Like Me. Thank you, Luke.
Thank you, mate.